I was going to just run through some names of guys who might be on the 45 to 55 range and just wanted to get your thoughts on what you've seen from them the whole summer. I guess we'll start, if you want to expand a little bit more on Harris, because he's an interesting one. I think everyone assumes he's a lock. I don't know if he is.
Yeah, I thought he was for a while. He got the green dot pretty early. We've seen some of his, we see him going back and forth between the first and the second team. So I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't think they're under any illusions that David Harris is going to be covering running backs out of the backfield in passing situations. I think some of it is just circumstance that they don't have enough guys right now.
Hightower's not practicing.
Right.
They don't have. He won't be in that position, I guess, in the regular season.
Exactly. And I think that, aside from that, I think he's done pretty well. I mean, I think David Harris has always been, and he's a guy that I've studied a lot when I watched film when he was with the Jets. He's a guy that stands out in the games. It's hard to see in practices, but I look forward to seeing him in the games if he makes the team.
Next one, Jordan Richards had a very rough preseason game. As on the whole for the entire summer, where do you think he stands?
Well, I mean, just based on his, defensive ability, you would think he's on the cut list because he's slow of foot. He doesn't do anything really well on defense. But the X factor is they obviously love him on special teams. And have we seen a player with the same sort of build that could take his place on those teams? I don't think so. So, I mean, it's tough.
Okay, how about Geno Grissom? Third-year guy at Oklahoma, cut at the end of camp last year, and then eventually worked his way back onto the 53. He was running with the ones at the very beginning of camp. He's really not getting much run defensively at all. Might be a special teams situation. Do you see him making it, or is this it for him?
He's another guy who they really like on special teams, and I think the Wise injury is sort of an X factor. When are we going to see him back from the concussion? Probably, I assume he's going to practice probably starting next week. I think it's a tough go for Grissom right now. I think that, like you said, he's been seeing his playing time cut, and he hasn't really been. Yesterday he had a good day on one-on-ones. He was 3-0. I did not see the defensive one-on-ones today. I watched the offense. But other than that, he really hasn't stood out at all. So it's tough.
Coney Ely got some run today. I thought he made some nice plays.
I will say, I was pretty rough on him at the beginning of camp, as a lot of us were. But I do think he's getting into the mix a little bit more. I think they've realized that he is not really an edge player. I think that, he's going to need to continue to show some interior rush ability. Now, I don't have a lot of belief in that with him because I just don't think he doesn't have the power, he doesn't have the speed or the quickness, and it's like, how is he going to win? I mean, I think he'd be okay against the run in sub packages, but that's not really what you're looking for. So I think he's another guy that it's getting tougher to see him on the team.
A few more names. We'll stick on the D-line. One guy who might bump him off, maybe, if they view Ely as a guy who's going to be in the interior, Adam Butler, undrafted free agent out of Vanderbilt. They like this guy a lot. We saw him today, and this guy, mind you, is like 6'5", 300 pounds. On a few snaps today, he was actually standing on the edge. He's played mostly in sub packages over the nose with Wise and Flowers in basically a 3-3-5 that they're playing. What do you think of Adam Butler from what you've seen?
Yeah, I really like him. I think that the Patriots really like him, like you said. He's made the most. He's always making plays out there, and I think what he has going for him is that they don't really have. And I got a few minutes with Belichick today, and we talked a little bit about this because they've gone away from the three techniques, like the Dominique Easley type of guys. There was a stretch for like 4 or 5 years where they were looking for that player. They've since abandoned. They pretty much go with like 6'5", 300-pound, powerful interior guys, or they go for edge guys. And I think Butler is a tweener, and that might appeal to them because he can do a lot of different things, especially in sub-package rushing, which we see him come in. Pretty much he's on the sub-package defensive line every time. So
absolutely, and has been for a while too. They liked him right out of the gate. The other undrafted rookie they liked right out of the gate playing with the ones was Harvey Longy. I don't know if he hasn't jumped out to me in terms of the plays he's made, but he continues to receive reps, and I don't know if that's an indication of maybe a lack of bodies there. There are some injuries. Maybe when Hightower comes back, they bump him down to that spot a little bit. But what do you think of Longy, and what do you think of his odds to make the team?
I think he's at this point, he's almost a lock to make this team. I mean, he's just in the mix on everything, starting at left end, special teams. He's in the mix on everything. I do, though, when I look at that position, I just get the feeling, and I've thought this way since the beginning of camp, I feel like that's going to be Hightower's spot. And they're sort of just waiting. Like they're using the inside linebackers. They're not really worried about Hightower. But it seems like that spot, they're like, we'll just throw Longy out there, and because Dante's going to come back and play that spot, at least on the first couple downs, which I think he'd be great at. And I think
he's awesome at it.
Yeah.
He's arguably their best pass rusher.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 270 pounds, athletic as hell. He's a house when he gets into he's just I think it's a great idea, and there's a lot of people have really been talking about that. So I do think there's some smoke around that fire. Profile guy Cyrus Jones had probably as rough a preseason game as you can have. You could argue Richards was worse. It's close. I don't know where he stands because teams don't cut second-round picks after their second year. That does not happen. I don't know the percentages, but it's probably 1 or 2% of second-round picks get cut.
Yeah.
Do you think Jones is still safe, or does he actually have some work to do here?
I think he has some work to do, and it was tough to tell because it was on the other side of the field. There were people in the way, but I could have sworn I saw him bobble.
He bobbled the punt.
Yeah.
It didn't hit the ground, but he double caught it.
Yeah.
Belichick standing right behind him. Doesn't bode well because I think
he also didn't field a punt that looked like he could have.
That looked like it bounced at like the 15 or so. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I watched him after that play because I couldn't tell whether he should have caught it or not. And I watched the coaches. I think they were okay with his decision, but you just watch his body language, and he looks like he has zero confidence right now. And so when that happens with us, then you can entertain cutting a second-round pick, because I don't think at this point, I don't think they have any fear that he's going to go someplace else and suddenly light the world on fire.
Yeah, I don't think so. And right.